Welcome everyone today. I'm Professor Horowitz from the Department of Sociology, and on behalf of my department and Professor Michael County, who's here, and Professor Nikki Phillips. Nikki? Oh, sorry. We are so happy that you came to hear a St. Francis graduate, Thomas Von Essen. He graduated in 1972. He said he was supposed to graduate in 1967, but it took him a few extra years. So for you students that are struggling, this should inspire you to know that even if it takes you a few extra years to graduate, you can do great things. And indeed, Mr. Von Essen has done many great things. He most notably was fire commissioner for the FDNY during September 11th. And that's what he's going to talk about today. But he's done a lot of other things. He currently serves as he works with Giuliani Partners, a New York consulting firm headed by former Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. He also teaches as an instructor at a college locally, right? Okay, I saw that somewhere, but I didn't check with you. He actually wrote a book about his experiences as fire commissioner. So we're very honored to have him here today, and he's going to talk for a little bit and answer some questions, and we're very happy to have him here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty wild coming back. It's a little emotional. I didn't expect it to be that way. I was trying to think of some things to say this morning, and I remembered Timmy Stackpole, who was also an alumni of St. Francis, and I emailed Tara, his wife, and told her I was going to be here, and she said, make them cry. I said, no, they won't cry. I'll probably cry, but that's because I'm a little, I get emotional over some of the stuff, even 10 years now, so it's, I guess it's who you are, you know. Everybody can hear me okay? So I'll tell you a little bit about me, and as Dr. Horowitz or Professor Horowitz said, I'll talk, and then I'll be glad to answer as many questions as you have for me. I'll stay as long as you want, even if everybody leaves, or almost everybody leaves. I'll talk to whoever stays, and I understand everybody has things to do. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I came here in '63. Can't believe how long ago that sounds. Like I said, I should have graduated in '67. I was doing really poorly. They asked me to leave a couple of times and reconsider college life. Went in the service. I had joined an officers program while I was here. I was playing baseball, and there was an armory over in Brooklyn, had a submarine there, so I joined the submarine officers program. And of course, when I got thrown out the second time, they threw me out of the officers program, which made sense. And I went in the Navy as an enlisted man in submarines. Did my time and came out, needed a job, went on the fire department. Only because I needed a job, didn't think it would be a long-term thing for me. Figured I'd go back to school, get serious, and go into business. Maybe occupy Wall Street. And I came back here, they took me back. I had 2 kids already. I got pretty serious, I did pretty well, and I finished in '72. I thought I would leave, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it very much. I spent about 13 years in a great firehouse in the South Bronx. Really got to be a firefighter, you know, in the true sense of the word. It was a time of enormous amount of firefighting. Then I got involved in the unit, got a little bored. I got a master's, I was going to teach, and I started teaching. I thought I really liked kids because I had 4 of my own. And I was teaching some really little kids, and I realized I don't like kids that much because they were really a pain in the neck. They were so I thought maybe I'll teach older kids. And then I got involved in the union, which is like teaching older kids, and spent 7 years in the union, the firefighters union, which is the biggest in the country. Then I went back to the firehouse for a while, and then I became president of the union, doing that for a few years when Mayor Giuliani asked me to become commissioner, which is really unusual. That just doesn't happen. But it was unheard of at the time, and it probably never happened again. But I had a great 6-year run, an opportunity to change a department that I really loved, that I had been in at that point for 13, 16, about 17 years, and no more than that, 13, 20, 23 years or so, that I really loved and knew it inside out, had all kinds of visions about improving it, and then you become commissioner, so you had that opportunity, especially with a mayor who thought a lot about the department. If you ever get involved in politics and government, you realize that it's hard to get anything done, even at a college like this, I guess, if you don't win over the people that control the finances. So if you've got their ear and you have or they like what you're doing, it's a lot easier to get things done. Before me, fire commissioners had always been attorneys, judges, politicians. I was the first person actually that came from the union and really, really understood the department. I'll tell you a little bit about September 11th. It reminded me also, I drove here this morning, and it was a drive that I was on that morning, coming down the East River Drive on my way to go across the Brooklyn Bridge. Fire Department headquarters is right over here on the other side of Tillery Street. And driving down East River Drive, I got a report that there had been a small plane that hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. I responded there immediately, got there in a few minutes, and walked into the building. It was a lot of glass and everything all over the place. Couldn't really see the real effect of it at that point. There were a lot of people already jumping, or I don't think they really jump. I think the heat just drives you out. But about 10 feet away from me, I heard this thud, and I looked, and I was shocked, and I realized it was a person. It sounded like a car hitting the ground. It had such an impact. I kept going. I got in the building, and the chiefs had already been there. I got there a few minutes after the alarms came in. The chiefs had already decided that the impact was so severe on the upper floors, some of the first guys got up there in elevators. The impact was so severe that they weren't going to be able to put the fire out because there were no water lines, no connections to really get anything done, and the fire was pretty significant. So at this point, it was hard to believe that it was a small plane. And not too long after that, I think it was about 17 minutes from the first impact, the second plane hit the South Tower. And I was standing at a platform like this, talking to everybody. They came to us, the commissioners confirmed information. The South Tower had been hit. We had felt a vibration. We thought it was an explosion on the upper floors from the fuel and everything. But they came to us and said, no, the South Tower has been hit. And all of us thought, oh my God, this is really something that's going to be, way out of control for us. And that is beginning of the confusion and all the really tough parts of the operation, because the chiefs had all their top leadership in the North Tower. Now they had to split everybody up, put in another fifth alarm, which brings you another 30, 40 units. So now you're going to have 80 units responding to a North Tower and a South Tower, Tower 1, Tower 2. Very confusing to our units that would be coming from everywhere. The fire department is kind of set up where, you have something here and people come from every direction. So which would make, and they cascade. They would then fill in from units that came all the way from Riverdale and the Upper Bronx. They would drop them to, closer and closer. So it's just a way that you would normally keep protection as good as you could anyway for the whole city. So that was just something that would now escalate. When the second plane hit, everyone knew that this was going to be something that going to be tough for us. And at that very moment, Chief Downey, who was my top man as far as collapse and explosions, things like that, he had run in Oklahoma City, the bomb there. He was in charge of the operation there. So he was a real expert. He walked right by me. I'll never forget his face, good-looking guy, older guy. And he said, "Boss, these buildings can come down." And I'll never forget it. And he looked at me with no fear in his face, no real immediate concern. It wasn't, "Tommy, get everybody out of here, get the hell out of here, they're coming down." I really thought that he believed, and there's no better expert, that we had time, that these buildings will come down if we don't put these fires out. And we weren't going to put the fires out, so they could come down. They might burn themselves out, but they could come down, but not in the amount of time that they did. A lot of folks in this room will be leaders someday, and you need to realize that you'll never have all the information to make a perfect decision. A lot of the information will be real. A lot of it will be confirmed, like I got confirmed information that day that the Mall of America was hit, that the Sears Tower was hit. Those are untrue reports. Neither one was accurate. That was confirmed information. Where do you get confirmed information like that? So as a leader in combat, in military operations, in a police, in a fire situation, in a medical, in an emergency room, you'll always, as a leader, be wishing you had more information. And you'll, at some point, have to make a decision. And a lot of it will be based on that real information, information that you're sure of, information you're not sure of, and your own intuition based on the experience that you have. So from beginning to end, 102 minutes. That's a great book that Jim Dwyer from the New York Times wrote. If you ever want to really read a story about everything that happened that day from beginning to end, in 102 minutes, it changed a lot of lives and changed a big part of the world. And I realized, when you talk to students, that a lot of you weren't even thinking about it. I mean, when you see people that are 30, 40, 50, you understand that for them, this has been something in their adult life. But for a student that's 18, 19, 20, 10 years ago, you're a kid and not concerned about it, not thinking about it. So maybe not a very big part of your life at that point. But as you've grown older and as you've seen, it has become a big part of your life. Unless you live in a dark room and you won't come from there to here. You see it's all around you. You see it's talked about all the time. I've always thought that the hardest part for the families after September 11th were that the kids had to deal with it every day. The politics of it, the turning on the television and watching those buildings collapse every day, watching them explode all the time. Normally, I think if a normal father dies, it's horrific. If your father dies of a heart attack or your mother, car accident, a year later you've somewhat moved on. You'll never forget, and you'll always have that pain in your heart. But you're not watching your mother or father get killed every day, and that I think was the hardest part for all the children that grew up, like you. People, if your father was in that building when it collapsed and you were 10 years old, then you've had a tough 10 years living with all the pain and heartache that it's caused. But after it happened, the outpouring of assistance came from everywhere. We were amazed how everybody just came together. Fire departments from everywhere. USAR teams, that's urban search and rescue teams. There's about 30 of them around the United States, and I think they're a great source of expertise if you need them when something happens. They come totally self-sufficient. They're able to operate at an emergency, and it's a terrific thing. But volunteers, career firefighters came from everywhere. And we had significant help from the private sector. Of course, we never would have been able to make it. We had no water, no electric, nothing down in Lower Manhattan. And we had a mayor that was pounding on top of our heads every minute to get the stock market open, get those streets clean. We want to show the world. He was able to think globally, whereas someone like me was concerned about my department, my 17,000 employees that were responsible for the safety of the city in respect to fire and emergencies, medical calls. But he was thinking globally of what will this do to the country, what will this do to tourism, what will this do to the banking industry, to Wall Street, to investment. We need to show the world that we've been wounded, but we haven't been destroyed. And I think he did a great job doing that. He told a story at the time where he was driving down here somewhere, not down here near City Hall, on the other side of the bridge, and he saw this guy directing traffic, and he noticed that the uniform was different, so he stopped, rolled down the window, and he said, "Officer, where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Chicago. Mayor Daley sent us to help, And Mayor Giuliani said, "Thank you, I appreciate it," the whole bit, drove away, and he said, "I wonder where he's sending everybody." He had no clue. He was just, go that way, go this way. But that was the kind of time that it was, where people just stepped up to make a difference. We had volunteers from everywhere, every age. I would walk down at the site, and I'd see somebody who looked to me like he's about 80 years old, and I said, "Oh my God, these people are going to get hurt." And you see someone else look like he was about 10. So you really had to get control of the site very quickly. And that's where we brought in people from the state, the militia, the National Guard, all kinds of folks came in to give us some help. We had retired mechanics come from in the fire department. They were repairing rigs, brakes, and they got 100 rigs back in service that were out of service for us in a couple of days. And before that, when they were working, you're lucky if you get them to do 2 hours work in the course of the day. But here they were working for free and coming back and making a tremendous difference. There was help from everywhere, from all the Ford, Chevrolet, everybody sent cars and trucks. All the manufacturers around the country sent us, could you give me a little water, somebody? Doctor, thank you. Just a little bit. They sent us people who were waiting for fire trucks for their city. They'd forget about that order and they'd send it here so we could use it because we lost so many trucks. Oh, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Sorry. But I think the hardest part for us was not the replacing equipment, getting people, able to work again, even though we did lose almost all of our equipment because so many people were there that day. The hardest part was the people. You're never going to replace the amount of experience that we had. It was a time when there were a lot of older officers who had been through the 60s and 70s and had tremendous amount of fire experience. That'll never be recovered. Today there's all kinds of issues with people breathing issues, with people who maybe have had asthma before or maybe had clear lungs before that are suffering from lung issues today. And that a lot of it came from our inability the first few days to get respirators. And then even when we got them, a lot of people weren't wearing them. We weren't tough enough in forcing people to wear them. They were complaining about the heat. It was hard to communicate. It was very hot. So, bosses would try to be good guys and, okay, don't worry about it. And it turns out today that those are serious lung issues for a lot of those folks. We should have done a better job of forcing compliance, taking people off the pile if they refuse to wear the respirators, but that's easier said now than it was at the time. I don't think there was any logistic or management problem that we had that was as difficult as a problem as the people. I realized the first couple of days, my team had been a very sympathetic group. I had come from the union, so I really knew what the department wasn't doing as far as servicing firefighters that had been seriously injured or, in the worst case scenario, killed. We thought we'd handle these tragedies the way we had handled those, in a warm, compassionate way, with all the not celebration, but all the dignity that people had gotten used to. And it was just too much for us. We couldn't keep up with it. We had a band that couldn't play at 343 funerals. One day we had 18 funerals or memorial services. People were just unable to do what we had done for the individuals before that. And even a month later, we had an airplane crash at Kennedy, and everybody thought, well, not at Kennedy, but as we took off over Rockaway, it crashed into the Rockaway Peninsula. Everybody thought that was terrorism, so we rushed out there, and we found out there was nothing to worry about. It was only maintenance. So that makes you feel better when you fly. It's not terrorism, just the wing fell off. And we were very lucky. It came down like this almost in Rockaway, destroyed a few homes, and only a few people were killed, which is horrible for those few people. But we were very, very fortunate that it did not come down like we thought it would in Rockaway and destroy, hundreds of homes. But that night we had a meeting with the families, and we joked about how the fire commissioner's job could have a plane crash in the morning and get worse as the day went by. And the reason was the families at that point, after a month, were just, had it, couldn't deal with it anymore. Not everyone, but many. Didn't want to hear that we couldn't find their husband, didn't want to hear that we couldn't rescue their loved one, but just unable to deal with the pain and the heartache that they had. I remember saying that some woman said that you should have been prepared to lose 343 people. And I thought that was pretty unfair. And we said we were overwhelmed because of the difficulties we had. And she stood up and she said, "You're overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I've got 5 kids and I lost my husband." To this day, I can't listen to that word overwhelmed and not think of that lady. And those are the kinds of things that you take with you when you do lead. You know, I recently visited the new memorial at the Trade Center, and I was really impressed. I was very glad for the families that it's spectacular. It's the museum's not ready yet, but the memorial itself is really special. You come into it thinking that you're in a national memorial, which it is, a spectacular memorial, which it is, and I know that the families will enjoy that. Enjoy it. I don't mean enjoy it, but respect it and be glad that their loved one is remembered in such a spectacular way. But I got a tour also of the museum, which won't be ready for another year. Inside the museum is going to be a special place for the medical examiner, believe it or not, which thousands of remains are still, we still have them. They haven't buried them or given them to anyone. They don't know whose they are. They're still being maintained, taken care of, hoping that DNA technology, which seems to improve every year, gets to the point where someday they might be able to identify them. And I think that's a tremendous honor and a very respectful, very expensive, but a very respectful thing to do for the families. Everybody put aside all kinds of issues at the time. The politics, the infighting, everybody put it aside. And I mean, even Giuliani and Hillary Clinton got along, which wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy accomplishment. But they did and worked together every day trying to solve all the problems of the city. It was great to watch. Doris Kearns Goodwin, which is a historian that I really like, said that we did miss an opportunity, though, that after Pearl Harbor, that there was much legislation that had been passed that took us forward and had improved much of the previous legislation in the country. And I think we missed that opportunity. And I think that the decisions made by the politicians after that put aside that spirit of cooperation, and we just didn't get as much done as we could have. Oh God, he was a phenomenal guy. I went up to St. Bonaventure to speak to the graduating class on his behalf and accept a doctorate in his name, and I still have all the stuff. We were very close. He was just really a phenomenal guy. I knew that he was gay when I was in the union. I was president of the union, and I knew about. He came over and said to me, I said I knew it, but he said, "I just wanted you to know, if you want me to quit the job, I will, but I think I can do a better job if my secret is kept." And I said, "I agree with you, because it's not the kind of a department that would have treated him as well as he should have been treated, I don't think, if he had been public about the fact that he was a gay man." But he was a great guy. I mean, the guys loved him. He couldn't do enough. He sacrificed every time. I remember even in the union, we used to buy him gifts, and we'd always find out he gave them away. No matter what you gave him, he gave away. And he was the same way. I mean, those Franciscan friars over at that church on 28th Street, whatever, they do a phenomenal job really taking care of people that need it, in the true spirit, I think, of the Catholic Church, helping people that really need it rather than being like a corporation. But he was just I don't know what else to say other than he's really been a spectacular guy. And I supported there was a very small group of gay firefighters, very small, not as small as the public group. The guys were afraid to come out. guys used to call me and say, Commissioner, I'm being abused, and say, well, fine. They would tell me where they worked. And I said, well, what can I do? How can I help you if you don't let me come in there and do something? But they were always afraid of the backlash and everything, so they would, and he and I talked about it all the time. And then I was criticized after he died. I got a call from USA Today saying that Father Judge was a gay priest, and I was told that you knew about it. And I didn't know what to do, whether to, so I had to make a decision, and I've never regretted it, even though I have been criticized, because I get used to that, I guess, when you lead, But I made a decision that I knew he wanted me to keep it a secret when he was alive, but I believed that he would rather help people that needed it. The gay person needed it more than the macho moron who had a problem with it in the fire department. In other words, they had plenty of support. And I thought that the gay firefighter or the gay person out there needed that support more. And I was going to just tell the truth when I felt I couldn't lie to that reporter. And I made that decision, and like I say, I haven't regretted it. He's a great guy. I remember the first night sitting down with collapse experts and them telling us that no one would survive. And the mayor looked at me and I looked at him and said, well, what are we going to do tomorrow? Just tell everybody that go into a recovery operation because nobody's going to survive? We couldn't do that. We had to hold out hope that we would find survivors. Like you see that earthquake in Turkey. It was a week later they found a young guy, hurt and everything, but alive. I had dreamed that that's the way it was going to be. But what we had was different than what everybody else had. Our dust, there was nothing out in the street. You didn't see any chairs like this. You didn't see any lecterns. You didn't see any tables. There was nothing. Just some that maybe had blown quite a distance from the building in just the explosion. But anything that was part of the heat and the fire just disintegrated. Everything turned to dust, except these enormous pieces of steel. So all we had was steel and concrete dust that was full of all kinds of poisons from everything that had melted. So that kind of compression packed down. We didn't have any survivors after the first 24 hours. So those experts were correct. And we went forward with hope, but we weren't, it was unsuccessful. But I work for Honeywell Corporation now, and a couple of corporations doing consulting about safety and things that I really care about. And I've heard the CEO say many times, we're not the government, we don't have to be inefficient. And I hear him and I say, that's horrible. But my experience has shown that that's true. And I don't believe that government needs to be as inefficient as it is, but it is. And I've tried to, in my small way, with my 17,000 employees, tried to change that. But I've heard complaints, over the years of parts of the fire department that wasn't able to change. I don't know the answer to it. I just do believe that the solution is not more of it. Anything that we can figure out a way to build accountability into, to build a system where people have to answer for their actions, I think will serve us better. In the fire department, and I think in most of public sector, accountability is kind of a dirty word. People get into these jobs, they get protection from the unions, which is well-deserved and necessary, I think, or the city would take advantage of you. I think the unions are important. But there's got to be a better blend, I believe, of making people accountable. You can't just say, okay, you're on, you went through your first year probation on the fire department, you're in physical fit, you're in great shape, everything's wonderful, and 5 years later you're 100 pounds overweight. But we need then to give you the same protections that we promised you 5 years ago. Something's wrong with that. Something's wrong with a system that just allows people to not really, it's not making it a two-way street. It becomes a one-way street with many of the employees. The 9/11 Commission I found to be very important, and I thought they did a great job. They criticized us, and I thought the workers, the young people like you, who were doing all the work, all the research, or finding out all the information, they did a great job. The politicians are nauseating. I mean, I have gone from a healthy disdain for politicians to an unhealthy hatred of politicians, you know, at my age now. And it's not even good for me because I can't stand them. And it doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat or whatever. It just, I truly can't understand how bad they are. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. But the 9/11 Commission, I thought, did some good work and pointed out some things that people like me need to be accountable for. If you run an agency, a police department, a hospital, a college, you need to be accountable for your results. So when things go wrong, people have to look at it. Some of the stuff I do for Honeywell and mass notification, a lot of colleges and spread out, you know, over thousands of acres. Something happens at a school, and I'm sure that you folks deal with it here also. Parents want to know, well, if something happened in St. Francis today, where is my daughter, where is my son? Where is my husband, who's a professor, or my wife, who's a professor? What's going on there? People want to know that. So people have to be accountable for the planning, at least, that's in place before these things happen. They said that we lost control of the incident. We did. But we didn't lose control because it was something that we did wrong. We lost control because it was just so big. There was no way that we could possibly keep control of it in such a... And nobody had planned for jets being used as missiles. In my lifetime, jets were hijacked and people were held as ransoms. The jet was held as ransom. People wanted money. People tried to make a political statement, but nobody ever used a jet plane as a missile. So it was the first time that had ever happened. Try to just skip some stuff. And we were criticized for the radios not working. And I always think back to a line in Liberty Valance where it says that when a legend becomes fact, print the legend. And that's the way it is with the radios. The radios worked that day. A radio doesn't work if I give everybody in this room a Motorola radio and we all decide to talk to somebody outside, he's not going to hear any of us. All it does is get all gobbled. You can't, it's designed to be one-to-one. And if you try to talk to somewhere on the 7th floor, if you try to talk to somebody in the lobby, the 7 floors of concrete and steel will prevent you from having clear reception. So you need repeaters, or you need backups, you need things that will help you send your message from floor to floor. And in an atmosphere like that, with all the people, there's repeaters, there's different command posts that have more frequencies. There's an 800 megahertz radio. This is all stuff that I guess is kind of inside baseball and over technical for you folks. But the point is that a lot of times you'll get information that's not accurate. And it's good for you to try to follow up and get as much information as you can. And I found that as my experience as commissioner and as a union president. In all the years, whenever I looked at a story in the Post or the news especially that we were involved in, it was almost always not totally accurate, almost always. The Times, separate from the politics, the Times did a better job, at least, of getting accurate information. They would at least follow up and talk to a couple of different sources, whereas the tabloids have a very fast and loose way of getting the facts out. So I'll try to wrap up because I think folks want to get going. Leadership, in my mind, has always been where it's not just something, it's not like taking a course where you take a course and you get an A or a B or C or D, in my case, the first shot. You take a course and you get marked on whether or not you're a successful leader. It's not like that. Leadership has to become part of your life. It has to become part of what you do every day. Whether you're that small job that you have working somewhere, you start to not take charge, but you show people that they can count on you. That when things are difficult, if it's really busy tonight, you're not supposed to work, but you volunteer to work, or you volunteer to help somebody that needs it, people will get a sense of how you realize that it's not just a job for you, but it becomes more of a sense of being part of a team. And for me, I always wanted to be part of a team. All through sports in high school and college, the jobs of being in something like the submarines, of being in a fire department, it was never a situation for me where I was out there all by myself. Loved being part of a team, loved being on a mission that I thought was a good mission, a pure mission. There's no, of course, the fire department's not pure. It makes mistakes. There's people in there that aren't all out for the good of the regiment, but the mission is pure. The mission is a good mission to help people, to try to make a difference in people's lives every day. And I look back at, being a consultant, working with Giuliani and stuff, hearing all these consultant terms and all these incentivize and all these different terms that people use. And I think back to arriving at a filthy, dirty firehouse on Prospect Avenue in the South Bronx in 1970, and looking up and seeing this big white sheet somebody had sprayed with spray paint, and it said, "Be proud." And for me, that's always been more important than any of the sayings or the things that people will tell you. A sense of doing what you believe is true, what you believe is right, even if it's not true and it's wrong, you think it's true, and that's what you believe in, and you're fighting for it. That to me is will hold you all in good stead. I think no matter where you go, no matter where you go to make a lot of money, or you want to do God's work, or to try to make a difference in the world, that I think if you care about the mission, you care about doing what you believe is right, and you're proud of what you do, that'll make a difference in your future. And I hope you all have as much fun as I did working in the public sector and now in the private sector. And thank you. And I'll be glad to answer any more questions if anybody's thought of any. I've always felt that, I've always wished that I had done more academically. I've always felt kind of inferior, not when I was running the union. And it's different, the different parts of your life. And I think of that as having the intelligence to realize where you are. When I ran the union, I listened to the lawyers all the time. Why? Because these 10 guys that were running the union with me, I thought, oh my God, some of these guys are morons. The decisions that they were ready to make were idiotic. So we better listen to the lawyer so we can blame the lawyer. When I got to the department, I had some really, really smart people. Now you bring the lawyer in, and you won't get anything done listening to the lawyer. So you've got to be smart enough to be able to realize where you are, who you're with, the team that you've got, the decisions that you have to make, the consequences of those decisions. And I think that's something that you get from being with people of a higher intellect and trying to work. I'll always remember, I majored in economics, and I had Professor Casey and Professor Ford. Now they're probably old names names that nobody even knows around here. But Casey was an old timer that believed everything conservative, and Ford was a Keynesian guy that believed everything. And you'd come out of one class and you'd say wow, that's the way to go. And you went to the next class, you say, wow, total opposite. You say, that's the way to go. And I think that confusion that you have in these years that you're in college, that stretching of what you realize, you say wow, so neither one of them is absolutely sure. I mean, there's all those jokes about economists, right? Or everybody having an opinion, but nobody really knows exactly. They think they do, but they don't. So all of that doubt that you have in your mind, I think it prepares you for the world, because there's a lot of doubt in things that you do every day. Decisions that you make are based not on total factual information. Decisions are going to be made on just the fact. I mean, I think that's one of the things that Giuliani liked about me. They felt that I had the ability to make good decisions. Could I intellectualize it? Could I write it? I was never as smart as all the guys in the room. There were all these Ivy League guys and stuff who had gotten it right, the first time, and had a much better sense of the academics than I did. But I was a street guy. I understood what it really meant to people out in the street, what it meant to 17,000 employees. It wasn't like over my head. I got that. A lot of those guys didn't have a clue about what the people actually felt. they knew what their professor at Harvard or St. Francis had told them. But when you combine regular people, and I'm sure there's not any really, really rich kids here at St. Francis, I doubt, I mean, I hope there are, but I doubt there are. Probably a lot of kids like there were when I was here. Parents are civil servants or middle management jobs, and maybe a real successful parent. I don't know, but I don't remember. All my friends wasn't like that. So I think that the ability to come and listen to real people and socialize with real people. One of the things that I always thought at the fire department, well, I put in a college requirement. And I believe that it really helped. And I look around this room, and I look at the diversity. I think it's phenomenal. You don't see that in the fire department. It's like 94% white guys. It's ridiculous. That shouldn't be. I always thought that they lose a little bit of that. If they had gone to college and sat next to people, all different people than them, than some lily white school that they went to out in the suburbs, that would make a better department. So that's what I think I got out of St. Francis, and the being with real people, real teachers, and just a preparation that. And when I remember hearing when I was in college and that's a long time ago, they said, in 30 years, a college diploma will be like a high school diploma is today, and that's pretty much true. You really gotta, this is almost like first entry, now having a basic college degree. It's, you see the unemployment levels, the difference in the unemployment levels of people with college degree and not college degree, enormous. So as hard as it is for you to figure out how to pay for it and everything, it's money well spent, I think. And I know, for me personally, if I hadn't gotten my master's, I don't think I would have been commissioner, because, like I said to you before, all the people that had gotten that job before me were big shot politicians and all that other stuff, or a fire chief that had worked his way up. But me, I don't think he would have been, he got a lot of criticism for making me, but he was able to tone some of it down by saying, well, he's got a master's, So I think that education, you can't go wrong. It's just so important to have it in your pocket, I truly, truly believe in that. I know it's difficult for a lot of you folks to, for me it was, I think one of the reasons, I joke about, not doing well and everything. A lot of it was, I was working my butt off, a bunch of different jobs and stuff. But I don't like to use that as an excuse, because I don't think it's the way to go. It's kind of like a white men's club, They're really good guys. They'll do anything for, there's no prejudice when it comes to helping citizens, none. I mean, I work with a bunch of really prejudiced Irish and German guys. I mean, my wife was Italian. They used to make remarks about guineas when we were watching the television. It used to drive me crazy. I said, my wife's Italian. What do you guys, knock it off. They were prejudiced against everybody. They were conveniently prejudiced against everybody, unless you were Irish or German. But no prejudice when it came to breaking down that door and risking your life for the worst, drug addict or whatever. I mean, I don't mean worse, but the lowest level of our economic system. None whatsoever, no prejudice there. But in the firehouse, close the door, let's stay amongst ourselves, let's have some fun, let's laugh. And I think that over the years has created, I think this recent stuff that you see with the tests being unfair and everything is all baloney. That test is not. They've dumbed down that test the last 15 years to make it easier for everybody. So it's got nothing to do with the...
So why
I don't know. I mean, it's not... I think it's a lousy job of recruiting. Like I say, I got criticized for putting a college requirement in, because they said, well, now it's going to be even harder for minorities. And I said, well, I want smarter everybody. I don't want, what's the point of taking a minority if he's a dope? I don't want any dopes. I wanted everybody to have at least an associate's degree and sitting in a classroom with all kinds of other people who understood what it's like to sit next to a gay person or an overweight person or a whatever. I mean, and that's what this city's about, and that's who you're responsible for or for protecting. So we tried, we got it, but when and then we lost so many black firefighters after September 11th, retirement, they made a lot of overtime, they got out. So now, even though they brought more in, the numbers are still terrible. So it's not the test. I think it's all about recruiting. I think that they should, I think they don't use any ingenuity at all. I would have, this time, instead of letting this idiotic judge do what he did and wasting millions and millions on overtime, I would have just said, for this year, we're going to take veterans. Any veteran that wants to come on, come on. And you would have gotten more of a mix because the vets are mixed. And nobody would have been able to complain. All the kids, the white kids from the suburbs wouldn't have been complaining about a guy who just came back from Iraq or Afghanistan. Nobody would have listened to them. So I think you've got to open up those doors. And what I did was I stopped putting the application. We used to send them to the firehouse, and you find out all the guys took them out to Patchogue and gave them to all their friends. I used to give them out in the libraries in the worst neighborhoods, because you wanted to get them in, get those kids to take the test. I don't know the answer. I'm afraid they'll eventually have a quota or something like they did in the 70s, and that's a hard time to overcome that thing because everybody hates those people who got on that way. Well, yeah, that's no question. That's how it happened, but that's no excuse for today. The city is not like that anymore. So you've got to. There's absolutely no excuse for having 6% minorities on a fighter. It should be even the police that have dumbed down their tests a lot over the years, and they did away with the physical, which makes it and that's not the solution. The solution isn't just to make it easier. The solution is to find there's a lot of super kids out there, minority kids, that don't know what a great job it is. And those are the ones you got to get. You got to go to the colleges and and attract those kids. Don't just have the test because they're not going to do as well. The city school kids don't do as well on tests as the suburban kids. I mean, I don't know. I think that's just a fact. Nobody talks about it. Maybe it's uncomfortable, but those are the facts. Why? I was talking to your fellow who's working in a video room over there. His wife's teaching in a class of 28 kids, and so many different languages, so many different issues. That's a tough class to teach in. If you're teaching, to 18 kids somewhere where everybody's sitting better behaved, everybody's getting help with their homework at night, that's a lot easier to teach. That kid's going to do better on the test. That's just that's an ugly reality, I think. Yeah, I think that's true, and I've been around long enough to see, though, that at some point the present system's not working. So you got to get creative. You got to figure out. We tried the residency. The residency turned into a scam. Legal. Everybody figured out a way to establish a legal residence in the city. I had suggested at the time, just give residence to a kid that graduated from a city high school. They didn't have the guts to do it. But that would give you a real city resident. Because for a kid that grew up in Patchogue, and I'm not picking on Patchogue for any particular reason, but and then when he needs to be a city resident to get 5 points, he gets an apartment in the city, he sets it up, gets a phone at grandma's house, and he got residency. So it's legal, but we should have put in a system where you couldn't scam it, I mean, so many good things are done, so many things are done with good intentions, and everybody figures out a way to scam it legally. But I think, and now I've heard in this next test, they're talking about a city, extra points if you graduated from a city high school. I think that's going to really help. It's taken too long, though. The Department of Justice has been looking at the city, from before I got to be commissioner. So that's 16, 17, 20 years. That's government in action. It takes forever to fix a problem. It's just stupid, I think.
Okay, well, thank you so much. You're so humble.
Thank you.